Hi, this is Grace, and on this week's call, we're talking about the issue of equality and the issue of influence in eco-villages. Right now, I'm speaking to you from an eco-village called Vidalia in Catalonia, and this is a recurring thing I've seen in every eco-villages that I've been to, which is the issue that new members, you need new members in order to have continuity of your community, but the old members have more skin in the game as far as how much time they've spent there and how much experience they have and how much they've invested. So they tend to have more weight. But the future of the establishment is, of course, dependent on people continuing to join and to have a life into the future. But those new members have less say in governance. And so how do you try and figure out this idea of continuity and fairness in who makes decision? Because you could also say that somebody who's new and younger has more years in the future, right? So maybe they should have more weight in the rules. So we actually have a discussion about how do you figure out how to allocate enough power so that everybody is happy and to create that balance in communities. So the topic I wanted to talk about is equality and democracy, which we've talked about in the DAO talks, in the weekly DGov talks, in the sufficiency currency, sorry, not in the in the workshops. So this is something that's come up, but now we're talking about it in a really practical way. And when you go to these intentional communities, there's a number of different types of people who are participating in the communities. And the balance between them is different in every community. So some people bought the place or took legal risks or are part of the association that bought the place. And sometimes the group has bought the place equally, and sometimes somebody bought the place and is letting other people be part of the community, right? So there's people with like financial and legal responsibility to this. Sometimes they bought it through some other organization that like is like a holding company and they're on the board of it. Like there's this whole situation. So that's one type of people who they may or may not even be living there anymore. So but they put in money. Then there's the people who are founders. And usually, I want to say usually always, every single one of these places I've been to is like, you got to build this place with your hands. You know, either they're building yurts or they're restoring some old castle or a mill or old homes. A lot of it because it's eco villages. So the whole idea is to restore stuff that's already there, not build your own house. So almost always, but some of them just took a big property and did build their own houses. So there are these people who put their sweat equity into it. Once you get the place, people spend all of their time putting the place together. That's like the end of having a job. And they might have and then there are people who do have a job. So there might be a coffee shop or a hotel on the premises and those kinds of things. It looks to me like they consider that work the same as other types of work, although different places might be different about that. So you got to put in your whatever hours a month, whatever 20 hours a week. It could be cooking dinner for everybody else. It could be being the barista at the coffee shop. It could be, you know, whatever it is, you know, hosting the guests. It could be planting the zucchini. So there's people who've been there for however long. Some people are founders. And then after the founders, there's new people who come in, who they come in under whatever the agreement is, which usually means some money, like they have to buy their way in or pay a monthly fee, and work. And those people usually, they go on a trial. It's usually they come for a couple of weeks, then a couple of months, then a year or 2 years before they become full members. But so those are the other things. And then there's volunteers. So I won't talk so much about the volunteers, but in order to have, week we talked about sustainability, right? You want to have new people coming in all the time, because as you're getting older, you want younger people to be coming up so you can rest when it becomes time for you to do that. And you also want the community to have life and to renew itself. So there's these generational gaps. And I've noticed two things with the generational gaps. One is the not best aspects of parenting feel between people. Like the older people who are usually the people who established the community, right? And as they got older, younger people joined. And there's a little bit of a look, clean up after yourself, kids, feel to it. Like, these are the rules. You came into our house, and it feels like it's not nice for the young people to be told what to do. And it's not nice for the old people to feel like the young people aren't respecting the rules. Like, they don't clean up after, they joined our community and they don't respect it. So there's this tension. And then the other thing is, that is the truth, right? These people built the place with their own hands, put their money in. Now some people are moving in who have all these newfangled suggestions, and they don't know what works and doesn't work. Or maybe they do, but so there's this tension. And should they have equal power? And how do you think about that? So that's the topic of the day. Like, so
Is there any reputation model inside this community?
they all know each other. They're never more than 200 people.
So the issue that you explain right now, the parenting telling no reputation system that can fix this one. That
I don't know, but it's an interesting question, right? What would you do to fix that, right? How would you work that out? Because some of it's just a feeling, and some of it's just, I mean, it's the truth. Like, I'm staying at a place where there were dirty dishes in the sink when I got here, and I'm like, you know, because I'm a parent, and I'm like, I don't know.
I would like to share something on that note. It's the same feeling when you go to a village with already established relationships, like how the dynamics within the village is already set up.
Yeah.
It's like people are like, if the people have a, what do you say, a tough between two people, like they're just against each other or something for something that has happened in the past. It's very hard to overcome it, like, because you've been in the village for a long time and you harbor those thing, unless someone comes in with the fresh. But yeah, I gather where you're coming from, Grace. Yeah, it'll be fun to talk about it. Yeah, but it's more about there has to be more about the maturity, wisdom from the older people, especially because they have to give in more way for the younger to experiment. At the same time, they have to let go, that let me empower the old, like the younger generation, let them do it, because that's the legacy that they will leave behind, right? If they don't have them, then the villages will be hollowed out, the way it's happening in Spain and Italy.
Yeah, exactly. And it's difficult, right? Because you have built this with your own hands, and you're like, oh, these newfangled people with their newfangled ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ari is touching a good point there, because it's like when you have a small business owner that is selling his business and it's his life's work, right? And then you're selling, but you're staying in the business because you want to do a transition. So it's a tough process because it's your baby, but you have to let it go at one point. So I feel like the analogy is similar in this in the sense that you spend your life building something, but at one point that thing is not you. So you have to make a separation, right? You're not your child. And that separation is a whole process in and of itself.
Well, it's
Um,
not a separation in this case. You're going to still have to live in this village and deal with the long-term implications, right? So it's more like
yes.
when your kid takes over the farm and you're still living there, and the kid says, I want to do permaculture, and you're like, look, we've been making money off of cheese forever. We got cows. And he's like, I don't want any more, we're vegan now. And you're like, what if we can't make the money and my child is going to go hungry and I'm going to go hungry because he screws it up, right? So it's a little bit different than selling your business.
Well, I feel like the separation is about the power,
Yeah.
right? So the power to decide, and some communities will have very strict guidelines for that, and others won't. So it goes back to the democracy we're talking about.
Yeah, like
So
what's the
what are,
power? Yeah. How do you
exactly.
get power? Yeah.
So if I have the power and I decide because I'm the founder and I founded everything, and now there's if new people are coming in, I'll have to give that some of that power. So
Hmm.
that has to be identified and acknowledged consciously.
I'm
And
going to
that's the
save
key
this
thing.
recording and send it to you in 10 years. But it really is like that, right? It is
Yeah.
like that. Here you are living in your thing, and these people who know nothing as far as you're concerned, right, are coming to live in your home and changing the rules. So, like, I think there also has to be a negotiation, right? Sociocracy, there's a sociocratic process, but the cost is, I've noticed the cost is really high because families don't come in as a group. They might come in two, but they're coming into a group, and a situation could happen where families come in who are younger families and there are no children the ages of their children, right? And they want help with, one of the reasons they want to live in community is that, they don't have to take care of their kids 100% themselves. And the older group is like, we did that. We're not, we're not, yeah, Hidayat.
Actually, about the power, I would still believe in a reputation, because if we have a power we want to transfer, like the things happening in mafia, then you want to transfer your power, you need to have an element. So what is the element to give you power is going to be money, and you are going to be Don Corleone, and your son is going to be the next Don Corleone. So the things, and then you need to element to transfer the power from A to B, and then again we go to accumulation. What can I give you to the Don Corleone number one that he can easily transfer to Don Corleone number two? So the thing that can happen here is reputation, because reputation, it is not transferable, because if I would bring my brother here, you're not gonna trust him as the same trust you have with me, because you know me. I cannot say that anything to my brother. So, and that's why I think the power, it is replaying the same, or it is regenerating the whole problem that we already have. Power, transfer power. What is the element to transfer power?
Well, here
So
it's not a hierarchy, but what you're saying is bringing up for me this idea that maybe it should be the opposite of how it is now. Like both of you have said this in some way. Like usually how it is you're new and you're the minority, so you get less say. But to some degree, we're saying actually you're the future, so actually you should get more reputation and more weight because you're the future. And we're like, and that feels completely awkward for everybody.
Yeah.
If-
Because if you're new, you don't have knowledge. If you don't have knowledge, you can't have wisdom, because wisdom comes with the experience of doing the knowledge part. So there's a danger there.
yeah. It's really hard though to look at that, right? Like, because it's also, you might not have wisdom about the past, but the world does change fast. And you might know that people are all becoming vegan and we gotta stop having cows.
It goes back to values.
It also goes back, I mean, one of the things, so it's really interesting now that we're talking about it, right? Usually when we talk about reputation, this is so fascinating. It's like opening up my mind again. We usually talk about skin in the game, right? So I'm talking like this is your future. And the other thing is that you talk about expertise, but it's showing up like there's a third thing, which is how important is it to the community that you stay,
Right.
right? Like,
Your value.
right, your value. And what I see happening, like what happens emotionally naturally, is for the community to see you as an outsider. And if you don't like it, leave. That's the natural feel. And I'm watching it happen. I saw 2 communities where people were going to leave because they were new, and it was like, and there were a number of different issues, but these were the main issues. It's like, if you don't like it, but the opposite is true, right? They're actually more valuable because they're the future. So Daniel, you go ahead.
But wouldn't they be right for at that stage where there is an already established community and there is a newcomer coming in? I think it's fair to have no say to the things at that point, that they should earn their reputation as well. So after a few years, they contributed, their reputation is increasing. At that point, they should have a say in how the future goes, not at the point when they are just entering, right?
Mm-hmm. And then where is that along the way? So again, when I was talking about these younger families, so there were a number of issues that came up for those families, right? One was, I don't want to live with only old people. I want other young people to want to join. And that particular family was there 3 years already. And it's like, and for them, it was really unpleasant and they were ready to leave. That's a really valuable resource, but they were being treated like, if you don't like it, leave. And they really wanted to bring other young people to come in. So that was a hugely big loss, and it was a small community. So one more family would have made a really big difference. Like if they brought their friends instead of leaving, it would have strengthened the community so much. And the community is not capable of saying that in that particular case. Another one, it was really this question of children, and this person who has younger children than the ages of the other children and really would like the babysitting services of the other children, and the community feels no obligation whatsoever to help her out. And she doesn't need decision-making power. She just needs more help. And she represents the future, and she's just one family, right, in a bigger community. So they feel like, if you don't like it, leave. And it's the future of the community in some way. So I think that's like where, to me, and if she leaves, another young family will be like, oh, I'm not going there. Whereas if she stays, another young family might come. So there's this kind of like, in companies, you look at that, right? You're like willing to invest in the new product, even though it's risky.
Grace, how this all conflict knowledge, what is the process? And giving feedback, going to discussion, they are fighting, there are some rules, how the process working from the time they detect the conflict or they detect the issue and then continue the conversation.
Diet, you should be saying, how the fuck did you figure this out with only 5 days per community? I don't know the answer to your question. It's like, in 5 days, I figured this out. I mean, pretty well. How they are talking about it? Oh my God. I did make some offers for me and Alex to come around in the winter when they do workshops.
Actually, I wanted to add something to that. It's kind of interesting. Firstly, the time period in breaking the ice between relationships. Oh my God, 5 days is not enough. And this is all about relationships, and it's nurturing. I don't know how the reputation fits into the larger scheme of things. It's more like but I won't go there, because in a smaller community, people know each other. Reputation is all in their head, right? Like what the rep the people carry. And other than that, what I just wanted to mention is that what you're trying to do, Grace, you and Alex going as a workshop, that would be the right way, where you're bringing the outside expertise, or like kind of a ice breaking. You're just trying to do that ice breaking with games. And this was done. I'll just share one example. Pani Foundation, it's like a water foundation, where they basically got people to do volunteer work, got the entire community to do volunteer work for the community's watershed management. In the process, what happened, people having the caste divide between them, a lot of things happening between them, got all resolved, because all of them are working towards a common purpose for the community and as a volunteer. So no hierarchy, nothing. And that brings everyone together. So something similar, when done as an icebreaker, where everyone is coming together to do something for the community, can definitely help build those bridges, and those sensitive topics of ice breaking will definitely help.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not so much about the iceberg. I mean, I think it's about, as you're building your community. I don't know, what's coming up for you, Emmanuel, around like this kind of stuff as far as you're thinking about the community that you're building?
Well, my thoughts are about the skin in the game part. And the way I think we can see it is if someone put in like a certain amount of money, like to build a house or something like that, or infrastructure, they could be seen as an investor. And if that investor is being compensated in X way, then the investor is considered paid off at one point.
So that's the end of their influence. They get this much influence for their money, and then at the beginning you set that up. After this many years, you're off the association.
Exactly. So it gets everyone back to the same level again at one point, right? So because like this is how we, or how I see it, like in our project. So if someone says, okay, I'll put $100,000 towards equity in the project, and that person will, at interest or not or whatever, but as the project goes along, the money will get back to him, and once he is paid off, that's it. He's not he doesn't have that reputation anymore. It's being bought off.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I not necessarily bought up, but transferred. So it's kind of the new ones coming in, and if they do service for the community, and the old investors are laying back now, then their reputation should be gradually transferred to the new ones, because they are the ones now producing more. So at some point, the new ones have more reputation credit, and then they can basically take over decision making.
Yeah, I also think that there's, I think one of the things that I'm thinking about is that, these communities, they're doing transvestment. They're trying to take money out of the old system and put it in a new system. And I can see that they make compromises around money, because it's really, it looks like we're probably going to complete at the end of the hour too. So one of the things that I'm seeing with this transvestment is they're trying to survive in the existing system while creating a new system. And so what they're doing is, for example, in this case of if you have hotel rooms, or maybe you even sell one of the condos as a summer home. And I'm seeing people talking about that here, like maybe they would have like a timeshare. One of the buildings would be a timeshare where they'd sell it for money, and you'd get your week per year or whatever it is, like all these kinds of financial arrangements that they're doing in order to fund the initial project. But then they end up with people having some ownership of something that later on could have housed a new family, or ownership, or people who are members of an association who don't have skin in the game anymore. And so I think there's something about not just about being bought out, but being like having your influence be clear over time, or being able to have you expelled if you're not really living there. It's only your summer home. We want to expand our community, and in our agreement is that we can buy this back from you at market prices or whatever. Those kinds of things are really necessary, I think, to protect the community. All right, guys, I see that we're going to have to end at the top of the hour. We got a lot of people busy today.
Yeah, sorry, I need to leave.
That's
as I wrote, I love to see that you are experiencing all the topic in reality. It is beautiful. And please share. Sorry, I'm leaving.
Hidayat always thinks things are beautiful. It's great to have you here. Thanks for joining our call. We have a call every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Sorry, it's 5 p.m. 4 p.m. UK, 5 p.m. in Europe, which is where I happen to be, and everybody is welcome. You can find out more about the calls and about the Sufficiency Currency Project on voiceofhumanity.one. So that's www.voiceofhumanity.one. So yeah, join us.